Have you ever walked through seasons in life that seemed overwhelmingly dark and confusing? Maybe you've asked yourself, where is God in all of this? It's in these very moments, when life feels most challenging, that God may be quietly working behind the scenes, preparing you for a blessing far greater than you can imagine. The journey through trials and hardship can be daunting, but they are often a precursor to God's abundant blessings. Let's walk together through 7 signs that God may be preparing you for something extraordinary. We all have days when it feels like we've reached the end of our strength. The journey feels too long, the challenges too heavy, and the road too lonely. In these moments, when you feel like giving up, it might be a sign that God is on the verge of blessing you. Think of Job, a man who was described as righteous, faithful, and devoted to God. Yet, his life was struck with unimaginable hardship. He lost his wealth, his children, and his health. If anyone had a reason to give up, it was Job. But instead, he remained faithful. He didn't understand why he had to endure such pain, but he trusted that God was still at work. In the end, Job's faith was rewarded. God restored to him far more than he had lost, and his story continues to inspire millions. When you feel like giving up, remember Job. Trust that your current struggles are not in vain. Just like gold is refined in fire, God is using these difficult moments to prepare you for something greater. He hasn't abandoned you, He's molding you. C.S. Lewis once said, "Pain insists upon being attended to." God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Pain isn't meaningless, it's often the catalyst that leads to our deepest blessings. So, when you're exhausted, and you feel like you can't take another step, know that God is with you, refining and shaping you. The darkest hour often comes just before the dawn. Don't give up, because your blessing might be right around the corner. Sometimes, right before God blesses you, He reveals the people in your life who do not truly support you. This can be painful. It's hard to face the reality that some people, even those closest to us, may not have our best interests at heart. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that not everyone is meant to journey with you into the next chapter of your life. Think of Jesus at the Last Supper. He shared a meal with His disciples, knowing full well that one of them, Judas, would soon betray Him. God didn't keep this from Jesus because He knew that Judas's betrayal was part of the larger plan. It was a painful revelation, but it was necessary for the fulfillment of Jesus's mission. In a similar way, God sometimes reveals the hidden motives of those around us so that we can step into our blessings without hindrance. It may feel like you're losing people, but what you're actually losing are distractions and potential obstacles. God is clearing your path for the blessing that's ahead. As C.S. Lewis said, "Pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man." Sometimes, God removes people from your life who are driven by pride, envy, or deception, so that you can walk in freedom toward your destiny. When God reveals the true intentions of those around you, it's not a punishment. It's protection. Trust that He is removing what could harm you or hold you back. The road ahead is sacred, and not everyone is meant to travel it with you. Have you ever had a dream that felt so real, so profound, that it lingered with you long after you woke up? God has always used dreams and visions as a way to communicate with His people. When you are on the cusp of a blessing, He may use dreams to reveal parts of His plan. In the Bible, Joseph had dreams that foretold his future greatness. But before he could step into that destiny, he had to endure betrayal by his brothers, slavery, and imprisonment. His dreams were a promise of what was to come, but the path to fulfillment was filled with trials. Joseph's story teaches us that dreams are often a glimpse of the blessings God has in store. But they may not come without challenges. God may use dreams to speak to you, to prepare you for what's ahead. But be careful, just as Joseph's brothers reacted with jealousy when he shared his dreams, not everyone will understand or appreciate the vision God has given you. Sometimes, your dreams are meant to be kept between you and God until the time is right. As C.S. Lewis said, we are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Dreams and visions are often God's way of nudging us toward that infinite joy, giving us a glimpse of the blessings He has planned for us. Trust those moments of clarity that come through dreams. Cherish them, and let them guide you as you walk in faith. Have you ever found yourself suddenly alone? Friends who used to be close start to drift away, social circles shrink, and you're left wondering why you feel so isolated. This isolation can feel like a punishment, but it may actually be God's way of drawing you closer to Him. When God is preparing to bless you, He may first pull you into a season of isolation. In the quiet, away from the distractions of life, He can speak to your heart in ways that aren't possible when you're surrounded by noise. This solitude is sacred. It's where God refines you, strengthens you, and prepares you for the next phase of your journey. C.S. Lewis reminds us that we are all fallen creatures, and all very hard to live with. Sometimes, God isolates us not to punish us, but to help us confront the truths about ourselves that we might not be ready to face in the company of others. In this season of isolation, God may be removing distractions and refining your character. He may be preparing you for a blessing that requires you to be spiritually and emotionally ready. So, if you find yourself in a season of isolation, don't be discouraged. Embrace it as a time to deepen your relationship with God. He is working in you, shaping you, and preparing you for the blessings that lie ahead, when you are on the verge of a breakthrough. It's not uncommon to face intense spiritual battles. These are the moments when doubt creeps in, when fear whispers that you're not good enough, when the challenges seem insurmountable. This is spiritual warfare. C.S. Lewis, in his famous work The Screwtape Letters, spoke about the subtle yet powerful ways that unseen spiritual forces can work against us. He said, there are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about the devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence. The other is to believe, and to feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. Spiritual warfare is real, but it's not something we need to fear. Instead, we need to recognize it for what it is, a sign that God is about to bless you. And the enemy is trying to stop it. These internal battles, whether they're struggles with doubt, fear, anxiety, or even temptation, are often signs that you are on the brink of a breakthrough. The enemy wouldn't bother with you if you weren't on the verge of something great. But remember, you are not alone in this battle. God is with you, and He has already won the victory. When spiritual warfare intensifies, don't lose heart. Pray, stand firm in your faith, and trust that the battle is a sign that your blessing is near. One of the most confusing and painful experiences in life is when doors unexpectedly close. You may have been certain that a particular opportunity, relationship, or path was God's will for your life, only to have it suddenly fall apart. In those moments, it's easy to feel discouraged, as if all your hopes and efforts have been wasted. But what if those closed doors are actually God's way of protecting you? God sees what we cannot. He knows the dangers and pitfalls that lie ahead, and sometimes, He closes doors to protect us from paths that would lead us away from His purpose. It may feel like a loss in the moment, but trust that God is redirecting you towards something even greater. C.S. Lewis once said, God cannot give us happiness and peace apart from Himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. When God closes a door, He is leading you closer to Himself, to a place where true happiness and peace can be found. The closed door is not the end, it's a sign that God has something better in store. So, if you find yourself standing in front of a closed door, don't despair. Trust that God is at work, redirecting you to a path that leads to greater blessings. When God is preparing to bless you, He often removes things from your life that no longer serve your growth. These could be unhealthy habits, toxic relationships, or negative environments. At first, the removal can feel like a loss, but in reality, it's a gift. Imagine trying to plant a garden in soil that's full of weeds and rocks. No matter how much you water the plants, they won't thrive because the environment isn't conducive to growth. In the same way, God sometimes has to clear out the weeds in our lives so that we can flourish. C.S. Lewis wisely noted that getting over a painful experience is much like crossing monkey bars. You have to let go at some point in order to move forward. God may be calling you to let go of certain things, not because He wants to deprive you, but because He wants to free you from what's holding you back. Letting go is hard, but trust that God is making room for something new, something better. When He removes toxic things from your life, He is creating space for the blessings He wants to give you. In closing, these 7 signs: feeling like giving up, God revealing enemies, dreams and visions, isolation, spiritual warfare, closed doors, and the removal of toxic things, are often signals that God is preparing to bless you. Though the journey may be difficult, take heart. God is with you, and He is leading you towards something greater than you can imagine. Trust the process, hold on to your faith, and know that your blessing is on the way.